The emergency beacon screamed across the void of space like a dying star's final song, Captain. Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the cold metal of the observation deck window, watching the twisted wreckage drift past the Harmony station. The alien vessel looked like someone had taken a flower made of crystalline glass, then crushed it in an angry fist. Pieces of what might have been walls or wings scattered in a glittering cloud around the main hull. How long has it been transmitting? Sarah asked, her breath fogging the viewport. Lieutenant Rodriguez checked his scanner. 17 hours. The signal's getting weaker. Whatever power source they're using, it won't last much longer. Sarah had seen plenty of shipwrecks in her 15 years commanding this deep space station. Pirates, system failures, accidents during experimental jumps. But this was different. The design was unlike anything in the databases. Elegant curves that seemed to bend light itself, materials that shifted color as debris tumbled in the darkness. Life signs. She asked. 1. Barely detectable. The biosignature is strange. Not human. Not any known species. Dr. Yuki Tanaka's voice crackled through the CUM system from the medical bay. Captain, if there's someone alive in there, we need to move fast. From what I can see of their ship's design, their life support systems are failing rapidly. Sarah straightened her shoulders. The decision was already made. The code of space was simple. You save who you can save, when you can save them. Politics and paperwork came later. Rodriguez, prep the rescue shuttle. Tanaka, get your medical team ready for a xenological first contact. We're bringing them home. Minutes later, Sarah found herself suiting up in the shuttle bay. She didn't usually go on rescue missions personally, but something about this felt important. The broken ship had appeared on their sensors like a ghost, moving just fast enough to avoid being pulled into the nearby gas giant's gravity well. Ma'am, are you sure about this? Rodriguez sealed his helmet and ran final checks on his equipment. Protocol says the captain stays on station during unknown alien contact. Protocol was written by people who never had to make these decisions. Sarah replied, checking her translation matrix one more time. The device could handle most known languages, but with a completely new species, it would be working overtime. Besides, if this goes badly, I want to be the one making the hard choices. The shuttle bay doors opened, revealing the star field beyond. Their little craft slipped into space, heading toward the drifting wreckage. Up close, the alien ship was even more beautiful and heartbreaking. Sarah could see where emergency seals had tried to hold atmosphere, where someone had desperately patched holes with what looked like crystalline webbing. There, Rodriguez pointed. Life sign is coming from that section. They docked carefully. With what appeared to be an airlock, though it took 3 different adapter configurations before they found one that worked. The alien ship's atmosphere was thin, but breathable for humans. As they moved through corridors that seemed to pulse with faint bioluminescent light, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking through the skeleton of some massive creature. The survivor was in what might have been the ship's bridge or control center. Sarah had seen many different alien species in her career. This being was something entirely new. They were tall and slender, with skin that shimmered between blue and silver, like the surface of a soap bubble. 4 arms extended from their torso, ending in delicate hands with too many fingers. Their head was elongated, with large eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies in their depths. But it was the wings that took Sarah's breath away. Gossamer thin membranes, stretched between fine bones, now folded protectively around the alien's injured form. "Are you hurt?" Sarah asked, trusting the translation matrix to make her words understandable. The being's head lifted slowly. When they spoke, their voice was like wind chimes made of starlight. You came for me." "Of course we did. We sent a distress signal. We answered distress signals." The alien's large eyes widened further, but ... You do not know me. You do not know. "My people, we are nothing to you." Sarah knelt down beside them, noting the careful way they held one arm against their chest. "That doesn't matter. You needed help. That's enough." For a long moment, the alien stared at her. Then, impossibly, tears began to flow from those galactic Eyes, not tears of pain, but something else entirely. "My name is Ethan," they whispered, "and I fear I have brought great danger to your kind world." Chapter 2. The Protector's TLDR. Tonica worked with careful precision as she treated Ethan's injuries in the station's medical bay. The alien's physiology was unlike anything she'd encountered. Their bones were hollow like a bird's, but incredibly strong. Their blood was silver and seemed to carry not just oxygen, but something that made it glow faintly under certain lights. "The arm is fractured, but it will heal," Tanaka reported to Sarah, who stood nearby. "What's more interesting is their nervous system. It's incredibly advanced. I think they might be naturally telepathic or empathic." Ethan shifted on the medical bed, their wings rustling like silk. "Dr. Tanaka is correct, my people. Feel each other's emotions, share thoughts across great distances. It is how we have survived for so long." Sarah pulled up a chair. 3 days had passed since the rescue, and Ethan was finally strong enough for longer conversations. The translation matrix had improved its understanding of their language, making communication much clearer. "Tell me about your people, Sarah," said gently. "And tell me about this danger you mentioned." Ethan's expression grew distant, their eyes focusing on something far beyond the medical bay walls. "We are called the Scifi. Our world, Sephara, is in what you would call the Andromeda Spiral. We are ... we were ... guardians." Guardians of what? Of the spaces between stars? Of the quiet places where young civilizations grow? For thousands of your years, we watched over dozens of species as they learned to walk among the stars. We protected them from things that hunt in the darkness. Rodriguez, who had been quietly monitoring communications, looked up from his station. "Hunt in the darkness? What kind of things?" Ethan's wings shuddered. "You would call them the Devourers. Ancient beings that consume not just worlds, but the very potential of civilizations. They feed on hope, on the dreams of species that might have been great. When they finish with a world, nothing remains but empty space and the echo of what could have been." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "And they found your world." "Not found, called." Ethan's voice carried a weight of grief. "That needed no translation. One of our own, corrupted by promises of power, opened a gateway. The Devourers poured through like a flood of living shadow. My people ... my people fought. They died buying time for a few of us to escape, to warn other worlds. How many of you made it out? I do not know. Our ships scattered across the galaxy, each carrying warnings. I was unlucky, or perhaps lucky, depending on how you see such things. My ship was damaged in the escape. I have been drifting for what you would call months, watching my systems fail one by one." Dr. Tanaka finished her scans and gently touched Ethan's shoulder. "You're safe now. You can stay here while we help you contact other survivors." Ethan's laugh was like breaking glass. "Safe, Doctor. You do not understand. The Devourers can. Follow the quantum signatures of our ships. By rescuing me, by bringing me here, you have painted a target on your entire system." The medical bay fell silent, except for the hum of machinery. Sarah felt her stomach drop. "How long do we have?"
"I
do not know. Days, perhaps weeks. The Devourers do not move quickly through space, but they are relentless. They will come, and when they do..." Ethan's voice trailed off. "When they do what?" Sarah demanded. "When they do, Captain Chen, they will not just destroy your world. They will erase the very possibility that humanity might one day walk among the stars as protectors, as we once did. They will make it as if your species never existed at all." Rodriguez's hands flew over his console as alarms began blaring throughout the station. "Captain, I'm detecting massive spatial distortions at the edge of the system. Something big is coming through hyperspace." Sarah ran to the command center, Ethan close behind despite their injuries. The main screen showed long-range sensor data, and what Sarah saw made her blood run cold. Dark shapes were emerging from twisted space, their forms seeming to bend light around them like black holes with intent. "How many?" she asked. "I count 12. No, 15. Captain, these things are huge. Each one is the size of a small moon. Ethan moved to the sensor display, their forearms dancing over the controls with surprising familiarity. These are scout vessels. The main fleet will not be far behind. They turned to Sarah, their galactic eyes reflecting the harsh light of the warning displays. Captain, you must evacuate this station immediately. Contact your homeworld. Tell them to prepare. Their defenses. Our defenses? Sarah almost laughed. Ethan, we're a peaceful species. We have some military ships, sure, but nothing that could fight things like that. Then your people will die, and I will have been the cause of it. Ethan's voice cracked. With emotion, I should have let my ship drift into the gas giant. I should have died alone in the dark. Sarah grabbed Ethan by the shoulders, careful of their wings. Stop. Listen to me. You said your people were guardians, protectors. You saved dozens of species over thousands of years. How? We had weapons beyond your understanding, ships that could dance between dimensions, the combined wisdom of centuries of no. Sarah's voice was firm. How did you really protect them? What made the Scifi guardians? Ethan stared at her, confusion clear in their expression. You protected them because you cared, Sarah continued. Because when someone needed help, you answered. Because you saw potential in young species and believed they were worth fighting for. That's what made you guardians, not your weapons or your ships? She turned to Rodriguez. Open a channel to Earth Defense Command. Priority Alpha. Captain. That will take hours to reach Earth, and hours more for a response. Do it. As Rodriguez worked, Sarah kept her eyes on Ethan. You asked me why we rescued you. Why we'd help someone we didn't know. This is why. This is what we do. And now you're going to see what happens when someone threatens a species under humanity's protection. Ethan's wings spread slightly. Under? Humanity's protection? But Captain, you barely know me. Your people have never even heard of the Scifi. Sarah smiled, and there was steel in her expression. Doesn't matter. You're here now. You're one of ours now, and we protect our own. Chapter 3. The call to arms. Admiral Marcus Webb materialized in the station's hologram chamber 18 hours later. His weathered face grim as Sarah finished her briefing. Behind him, Sarah could see the controlled chaos of Earth Defense Command's strategic center. Captain Chen, I need you to understand the magnitude of what you're asking, Webb said. You want us to mobilize the entire Terran defense fleet based on the testimony of one alien refugee? An alien refugee who admits their presence here has put us in danger. With respect, Admiral, I'm not asking. I'm informing. Sarah's voice was steady, but Ethan could sense the tension radiating from her. The Devourers are 18 hours out from our position. Whether we fight them here or wait for them to reach Earth, this confrontation is happening. Our analysts have reviewed the sensor data you transmitted. These ships, Captain, our most optimistic projections give us a 12% chance of victory against even one of them. Ethan stepped forward, their wings rustling. Admiral Webb, if I may speak? Webb's expression softened slightly. Throughout the galaxy, humans were known for their willingness to help refugees, but this was the first time he'd actually seen an alien in person. Of course, your Captain Chen speaks truly. The Devourers will not stop with your frontier stations. They will follow your quantum signatures back to every human world. But there is something you must understand about your species that perhaps you do not see yourselves. And what's that? In all my travels and all the species my people have encountered, I have never seen anything like what happened when Captain Chen found me in that wreckage. She did not hesitate. She did not calculate odds or political advantages. She simply came because I needed help. Ethan's voice grew stronger. The Devourers feed on hopelessness, on the moment when a species gives up and accepts defeat. They have never encountered a species that simply refuses to abandon someone under their protection. Webb was quiet for a long moment. How do we fight them? Our weapons, our ships are irrelevant. Ethan interrupted gently. The Devourer's ships exist partially outside your dimension. Physical weapons cannot harm them significantly. There is another way. Dr. Tanaka joined the conversation from her lab. Admiral, I've been studying Ethan's physiology. Their neural structures suggest they're not just telepathic. They're connected to some kind of quantum field that spans interstellar distances. If that field exists, it does, Ethan confirmed. It is how my people coordinated across vast distances, how we shared strength in battle. But the field responds to more than just Scifi minds. It responds to pure intent, to the will to protect. Admiral Webb leaned forward. Are you saying humans could access this field? I am saying that Captain Chen already has. When she decided to rescue me, when she declared that I was under humanity's protection, she created a resonance. In the field, I felt it. And if the Devourers are as close as your sensors indicate, they felt it too. Sarah felt a strange tingling in the back of her mind, like the echo of a thought that wasn't quite her own. The feeling I've been having since we brought it. You aboard, That's the field. Yes, and it grows stronger with each human who shares your conviction. Admiral, how many ships can you bring to this system? Webb ran calculations in his head. If I strip defenses from every sector, if I call in every favor and break every regulation about force deployment, maybe 300 ships, each one crewed by humans who believe in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Captain Chen's report has been transmitted to every ship in the fleet. Every captain, every crew member knows why they're being asked to fight. Webb's expression hardened. Admiral, what exactly are you proposing? Ethan spread their wings to their full span, and for a moment they seemed to glow with an inner light. I am proposing that we show the Devourers what happens when they threaten. A species that will cross the galaxy to answer a stranger's distress call. The next 6 hours were a symphony of controlled chaos. Ships began arriving in the system from across human space, emerging from hyperspace jumps and flashes of brilliant light. Sarah watched from the station's command center as the fleet assembled destroyers, cruisers, carriers, even hastily converted cargo vessels fitted with weapons. Status report, she called out. 247 ships in formation, Rodriguez replied. More arriving every hour. The Devourers have stopped their advance at the system's edge. They seem to be waiting for something. Ithon now. Wearing a specially designed pressure suit that accommodated their wings, moved between the human crew members. Wherever they went, Sarah noticed, people seemed calmer, more focused. The strange tingling in her mind had grown stronger, and she could swear she was starting to sense the emotions of her crew. Ethan, is this normal? This feeling? You are becoming connected to the protection field, Ethan explained. Every human who has decided to fight for my people, for me, strengthens the connection. It is how the Scifi were able to coordinate. Across impossible distances, how we shared courage in the darkest moments. Captain Diana Foster's voice crackled over the cum from the battleship Defiance. All ships report ready, Admiral. But I have to ask, what exactly is our battle plan against enemies that exist partially outside our dimension? Who had taken personal command of the fleet from the dreadnought Terra's shield, was quiet for a moment. Then Sarah heard him say something that would be repeated in history books for generations to come. Captain Foster, our battle plan is simple. We're going to show these things what it means to threaten someone under Earth's protection. All ships advance to engagement range. And remember, we're not just fighting for humanity today, fighting for every species that might one day need someone to answer their distress call. The human fleet moved forward as one, 300 points of light against the darkness. And as they did, Sarah felt something incredible happening. Protection field wasn't just connecting the humans to each other, it was connecting them to something larger. She could sense other minds out there, other survivors of the Devourer attacks. Other species that had been saved by the Scifi over the centuries. Ethan, she whispered, how many civilizations did your people protect? 47 species? Across 12 galaxies, over 3,000 years. Do any of them still remember? Still care? Ethan's eyes widened as they felt what Sarah was beginning to sense through the field. They do. Captain, I am detecting quantum signatures throughout the galaxy. Ships are coming. Species we once protected are coming to help us. The main display, new contacts began appearing at the edge of the system. Ships of designs no human had ever seen, vessels that seemed to be made of living crystal, metal that flowed like water, energy that had somehow learned to hold a shape. Rodriguez's voice was full of wonder. Captain, I'm reading. I can't even count them all. Hundreds of ships, maybe thousands. They're all broadcasting the same message. What message? The Guardians called. The answer, Chapter 4. The Guardian fleet, the Devourer ships moved. Like oil spills across reality, their forms shifting between dimensions as they advanced into the system. Up close, they were even more terrifying than the sensor readings had suggested. Each vessel seemed to absorb light itself, creating holes. In space, where stars simply ceased to exist, Admiral Webb's voice carried across all frequencies. All ships, maintain formation. Wait for my signal. Sarah watched the tactical display with growing amazement. The human fleet hung in space at the center of an impossible gathering. To their starboard, a squadron of crystalline ships from the Kepler Alliance refracted starlight into weapons that could cut through dark matter. Above them, the flowing metal vessels of the Oceanic Collective pulsed with bioluminescent communication patterns. Behind them, ships made of pure energy from the Transcendence crackled with power that hurt to look at directly. 47 species, Ethan whispered, their voice full of wonder. They all came. Every single civilization we ever protected is here. Dr. Tanaka, monitoring the protection field from her station, looked up with excitement. The field strength is off the charts. It's like every act of kindness, every moment of protection across 3,000 years is resonating at once. The Devourers had formed their own battle line, 15 impossibly large ships that seemed to bend space around them. As Sarah watched, one of them began to phase more fully into their dimension, and she could see its true horror. It wasn't really a ship at all, but some kind of massive entity. A creature of living shadow, with what might have been mouths or wounds scattered across its surface. All ships came a new voice across the communications array. Sarah didn't recognize the language, but the translation matrix rendered it in clear, musical tones. This is Sarah's command of the Kepler Alliance. The Guardians once saved our world, when we were nothing but frightened children hiding from the dark. Today we return that gift. Another voice. This one carried on harmonics that made the station's hull vibrate. Oceanic Collective stands ready. The Scifi taught us that the strongest current is the one that protects the shore. More voices joined the chorus, dozens of languages from across the galaxy. Each one spoke of debts owed, of protection given, of young civilizations saved by Scifi guardians who asked for nothing in return. And then Admiral Webb's voice cut through it all, calm and steady. This is Admiral Webb of the Terran Defense Fleet. To all allied ships, to all friends of the Scifi today, we fight not as separate species, but as guardians ourselves. The Devourers have made one critical mistake. Sarah felt the protection field pulse around her, connecting her to every mind in the vast fleet. They think that by destroying the Guardians, they can feed on the galaxy unopposed. But they don't. Understand what we've learned from the Scifi. Being a Guardian isn't about having the biggest ships or the most advanced weapons. It's about caring enough to answer when someone calls for help. The lead Devourer ship fully materialized, its shadow falling across half the battle fleet. Sarah could feel its hunger like a physical weight, a crushing despair that tried to convince her that resistance was pointless, that hope was an illusion. But then she felt something else. Through the protection field, she could sense the memories of every species present. The Kepler Alliance, saved from a dying star by Scifi engineers. The Oceanic Collective, protected from pirates by Scifi patrol ships. The Transcendence, guided through their first contact with hostile aliens by Scifi diplomats. Ethan was wrong about one thing, Admiral Webb continued, and Sarah could hear the smile in his voice. The Devourers aren't facing a broken refugee. and a primitive human fleet. They're facing the galaxy's memory of what it means to be protected, and that memory is choosing to fight back. The Devourer entity let out a sound that Sarah felt rather than heard, a psychic scream of rage and hunger that tried to tear at her mind. But the protection field held, strengthened by the combined will of 48 species who had all learned the same lesson from the Scifi. All ships, Admiral Webb commanded, engage. What followed was unlike any battle in recorded history. The human ships, their weapons enhanced by technology freely shared by their new allies, struck at the Devourers with coordinated precision. But the real weapon wasn't firepower. It was something the shadow entities had never countered before. Every shot fired was backed by the absolute conviction that the target threatened someone under their protection. Every maneuver was coordinated through the protection field, allowing the massive fleet to move as if controlled by a single mind focused on a single purpose. The divorced creatures that fed on despair and hopelessness found themselves facing the opposite of everything they understood. Instead of isolated victims, they faced a galaxy united in protection. Instead of fear, they encountered the kind of courage that comes from fighting for someone else. Sarah watched through the tactical display as the impossible happened. The Devourer ships, which should have been untouchable by conventional weapons, began to flicker and fade as the protection field touched them. Their forms, sustained by stolen despair, couldn't maintain coherence in the face of such unified hope. Captain Rodriguez called out, his voice filled with amazement. The Devourers they're retreating. The entire fleet is pulling back. Ethan moved to Sarah's side, their wings spread wide. They cannot feed here. This system, this fleet, has become the opposite of what they require. It has become what my people always hoped, to create a place where the act of protection becomes its own strength. The lead Devourer ship sent out one final psychic pulse, a message of rage and confusion that the translation matrix rendered as, "This is impossible. Guardians are extinct. Hope is dead." Admiral Webb's response echoed across all frequencies. In every language of every species present, Guardians aren't extinct. They just found new students. As the Shadow Fleet disappeared into the darkness between dimensions, the greatest gathering of allied ships in galactic history began to disperse. But not before each species left something behind: technology, knowledge, friendship, and promises of future cooperation. Sarah stood in the observation deck of Harmony Station, watching the last of the allied ships prepare for their journeys home. Beside her, Ethan gazed out at the stars with an expression of wonder. "What will you do now?" Sarah asked. "Your homeworld is gone, your people scattered. You could stay here, help us understand the protection field, maybe find other survivors." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "Captain Chen, do you remember what you told me when you found me in my broken ship? You said that when someone needs help, you answer, that it doesn't matter if you know them or not." "I remember. I have been thinking about those words. For 3,000 years, my people were guardians. We thought that when we died, when our worlds fell, the guardianship would die with us. But today, I have seen something my people never imagined." Ethan turned to face Sarah, their galactic eyes reflecting the starlight. "We created guardians by protecting species until they were strong enough to protect themselves. But your people have become guardians not because you are strong, but because you cannot bear to leave someone who needs help." "So what will you do?" Sarah asked again. "I will do what guardians have always done. I will find those who need protection and teach them that someone cares enough to answer their calls." Ethan's wings rustled with determination. "But this time, I will not teach them to be guardians like the Scifi were. I will teach them to be guardians like humans are." Dr. Tanaka joined them at the viewport, carrying a small device that hummed with gentle energy. "The protection field generator is ready. It's based on your neural patterns, Ethan, but designed to work with human brain structures. We can establish relay stations throughout human space, create a network that will let us respond to distress calls from anywhere in the galaxy." "And the other species?" Sarah asked. "The ones who came to help us today? Already implementing their own versions?" Tanaka replied with a grin. Da-da-da-da. It seems everyone wants to be part of the new Guardian network. We've gone from one species trying to protect the galaxy to 48 species, all committed to the same goal. Ethan laughed, a sound like silver bells in a gentle wind. The Devourers sought to end the Age of Guardians. Instead they have begun the Age of Universal Guardianship. / Epilogue. The New Guardians 6 months later. Sarah stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned Use Guardian, humanity's first dedicated rescue and protection vessel. The ship was a collaboration between human engineering and alien technology, designed specifically to answer distress calls across interstellar distances. Captain Lieutenant Rodriguez called from his station. We're receiving a distress signal from the Vega system. Unknown ship, unknown species, life support failing. Sarah smiled as she felt the familiar tingle of the protection field activating. Somewhere out there, someone needed help. Across the galaxy, 48 different species had built a network dedicated to ensuring that no distress call would ever go unanswered again. Set course for Vega, she commanded. Maximum speed. As the Guardian jumped to hyperspace, Sarah thought about Ethan, who was now traveling the galaxy in a ship of their own, seeking out young civilizations and teaching them the most important lesson the universe had to offer. When someone calls for help, you answer. It doesn't matter if you know them or not. It doesn't matter if helping them puts you in danger. You answer. Because in a universe full of darkness, the willingness to help a stranger is the only light that really matters. The Age of the Guardian was not ending. It was just beginning, and it would burn bright enough for everyone to see.